Don't blame the house. 3 notorious murder homes. What is the fate of a house where an unspeakable act unfolds? You want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want the physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy, so they will understand that your energy has not died, writes physicist Aaron Freeman. You want the physicist to remind your sobbing mother about the first law of thermodynamics, that no energy gets created in the universe, and none is destroyed. Freeman has a poignant and compelling point. What if energy includes not just movement of matter, the pull of the tides, or the construction of buildings? Maybe energy includes less tangible forces, like human emotion, the charge of personality, profound loss, or fear. And maybe it's more than a trope that tragic events leave ripples in their wakes. There's a colloquial term for the houses that become unwilling backdrops for violent crime: murder houses. What happens to these homes in the aftermath of such events? Are they, like many of the perpetrators who committed crimes in their bedrooms, basements, and hallways, irredeemable? 10,050 Cielo Drive. The Manson Murders. On August 9, 1969, a bucolic cottage in Beverly Hills, California, became the setting for one of the most horrifying crimes of the 20th century, one that, in hindsight, has come to symbolize the devolution of the loving spirit of the American 60s. The renters of the cottage at 10050 Cielo Drive would be well recognized at the time. Roman Polanski, a famed, if troubled, filmmaker, and his wife, Sharon Tate, a budding actress. On that summer night, Roman was away. That left Sharon, who was pregnant, and several of her acquaintances: Jay Sebring, Wojtek Frykowski, Abigail Folger, and Stephen Parent. They could not have known that 4 strangers were creeping through the California darkness. They were Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian. The one who wasn't present, of course, was the mastermind who'd sent his minions on the murderous mission. Manson knew the previous residents of the home: music producer Terry Melcher and his girlfriend, actress Candice Bergen. And it's been rumored that they were the intended victims. Evidence suggests Manson was aware of their departure, however, leaving questions as to why the Manson family targeted the house. The murders are stitched into the tapestry of Hollywood lore, not only because of the victims, but because of the unlikely culprits who went on to murder supermarket executive Leno LaBianca and his wife, Rosemary, the following night. Their motivations appeared inexplicable. It seemed only true evil, spawned by a malevolent leader, could account for such violence. With all the news coverage of the murders, it's hard to imagine anyone wouldn't have heard the name Manson, or that most Angelenos wouldn't recognize the house where the crimes occurred. The owner of 10,050 Cielo Drive, Rudy Altobelli, finding it difficult to re-rent the abode, blamed his former tenants. He sued Polanski and Life magazine for allowing crime scene photos to be published, claiming that the images impacted the home's resale value. Altobelli even filed a lawsuit against Tate's estate for damages to the property and for Altobelli's psychological distress. While Altobelli may have been litigiously opportunistic, was he wrong to suggest that the house's value suffered due to the events that unfolded there? Randall Bell is CEO of Landmark Research Group, which specializes in damaged or stigmatized real estate. In other words, a property that has been psychologically impacted by an event, such as a crime, death, or paranormal activity that occurred on the property, making it less desirable to potential buyers. According to Realtor.com, your average murder home typically sells for 10 to 25% less than market value, more if the home was the site of a child's death. In a 2024 interview with Architectural Digest, Bell discussed who typically buys these properties. There's a lot of people who have a macabre interest in murder houses, but I don't really see people particularly buying these homes because of their fascination with crime. It's more that they're getting a discount, Bell said, and life moves on. In the case of 10,050 Cielo Drive, Altobelli lived there for years before selling it. In the 1990s, Trent Reznor of the band Nine Inch Nails became the last person to live in the house, recording his album Downward Spiral there. He claims he only learned about the home's history after moving in. At one point, he was confronted by Tate's sister, who questioned his motivations. She said, "Are you exploiting my sister's death by living in her house?" Reznor told Rolling Stone in a 1997 interview. "For the first time, the whole thing kind of slapped me in the face. She lost her sister from a senseless, ignorant situation that I don't want to support." In 1994, the house at 10,050 Cielo Drive was demolished, albeit without its notorious front door, where the Mansons wrote the word pig in Tate's blood. Reznor took it with him before leaving, installing it at his recording studio in New Orleans. The door has since been sold at auction. The Amityville House. On the evening of November 13, 1974, a scruffy 23-year-old man entered Henry's Bar in Amityville on Long Island, New York, pleading with patrons. "You got to help me. I think my mother and father are sick shot." The man was Ronald DeFeo, Jr. After police were called to a 3-story Dutch colonial at 112 Ocean Avenue, all 6 members of the DeFeo family, Ronald's parents, Ronald Sr. and Louise, as well as Ronald Jr.'s siblings, Dawn, 18, Allison, 13, Mark, 12, and John, 9, were discovered shot in their beds. In the beginning, DeFeo told police that his family had been killed by mob hitman Louis Fellini. The family did have a connection to the Genovese crime family, but Fellini had an alibi. DeFeo soon confessed to the familicide, telling detectives, "Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast." The motive for the murders was never concretely established, although the promise of insurance money may have played a role. DeFeo's attorneys argued an insanity defense, citing DeFeo's drug use and antisocial personality disorder. But Judge Thomas Stark determined that DeFeo was cognizant of his actions and called the killings the most heinous murders committed in Suffolk County since its founding. And yet, these events weren't enough to keep another family from purchasing the house. In December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz bought it for $80,000. They and their 3 children stayed only until January 1976. However, citing terrifying paranormal activity, including cold spots, odd odors, and the obligatory green ectoplasm seeping out of the walls as the reason for their departure.